The legend tells us that a cave called Mela is the doorway to the Garden of Eden. In a stunning revelation, archaeologists have uncovered a mysterious cave system near the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in northern Iraq, potentially the site of the Garden of Eden. Featuring unique plant life and ancient artifacts, this discovery could finally pinpoint the location of the legendary paradise described in the Bible. Could this be the true Eden where humanity's story began? The biblical description of Eden, the Garden of Eden, is described in the book of Genesis as a paradise created by God as the dwelling place for the first humans, Adam and Eve. Located in the east, Eden is portrayed as a lush and fertile land, abundant with life. Genesis 2 verses 10 to 14 describes the garden as being watered by a river that split into four major rivers: Pishon, Gihon, the Tigris, also known as Hiddekel, and the Euphrates, Barat. These rivers sustained the garden, ensuring its perpetual fruitfulness and vitality. Alongside its rich vegetation, Eden was home to the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, both central to the biblical narrative. The four rivers have been the subject of much discussion. The Pishon and Gihon's precise locations are unknown, but they are often interpreted to represent life-giving waters that ensure the fertility of the land. Eden's significance in the Bible extends beyond its physical beauty. The garden represents a state of perfect harmony between humanity and God, a place where Adam and Eve lived in innocence before their disobedience. Often referred to as the Garden of the Lord or the Garden of God, Eden symbolizes the divine ideal, a life of purity and peace, untouched by sin. The expulsion of Adam and Eve from Eden after they ate from the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil marks the loss of this ideal state, signifying the beginning of human suffering and mortality. The Garden of Eden serves as a reminder of what was lost due to the fall, and as an image of what humanity seeks to regain, either spiritually or eschatologically. Ezekiel's depiction of Eden, as recounted in Ezekiel 28 verses 12 to 19, where the king of Tyre is likened to a being cast out of Eden for his sins, reinforces the garden's symbolic role in representing divine justice, purity, and eventual judgment. Thus, the Garden of Eden is a powerful image representing both humanity's beginning and its longing for restoration. The Garden of Eden, as depicted in the book of Genesis, was the setting for the dramatic fall of man. The garden was abundant with life, featuring the tree of life and the forbidden tree of the knowledge of good and evil at its center. God had tasked Adam with the responsibility of tending this divine sanctuary, commanding him to avoid eating from the latter tree. Eve, created from Adam's rib to be his companion, was deceived by a serpent symbolizing temptation. The serpent convinced her to eat the fruit from the forbidden tree, and she subsequently shared it with Adam. This act of disobedience was monumental, as it brought about the loss of innocence. Upon eating the fruit, Adam and Eve's eyes were opened to their nakedness, leading them to cover themselves with fig leaves. Their disobedience did not go unnoticed by God, who was deeply displeased. As punishment, God decreed severe consequences for their actions. Eve would experience pain in childbirth and be subject to her husband, while Adam would face a life of toil and hardship to eke out a living from the cursed ground. Additionally, God provided them with garments made from animal skins but expelled them from Eden to ensure they could not return. An angel with a flaming sword was placed at the entrance of the garden. The story of the Garden of Eden serves as a theological explanation of humanity's transition from a state of innocence and harmony to one of knowledge, suffering, and labor. It reflects deep themes of temptation, free will, and the complex relationship between divine command and human action. The Garden of Eden is described in the Bible as a paradise where humanity was first created, a place abundant with life and beauty, watered by a river that split into four tributaries. Genesis 2 mentions these rivers: Pishon, Gihon, the Tigris, and the Euphrates. The latter two rivers are well known today. The Tigris River stretches 1,750 kilometers, originating in southern Turkey and flowing through Iraq before reaching the Persian Gulf. The Euphrates, even more renowned in biblical times, spans 3,000 kilometers. It begins in eastern Turkey and winds its way through Syria and Iraq. However, the identities of Pishon and Gihon remain a mystery, sparking centuries of speculation about Eden's precise location. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which originate in the mountains of Turkey and flow through Mesopotamia before joining and emptying into the Persian Gulf, provide critical clues. Mesopotamia, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, is a strong candidate for the historical inspiration behind Eden. At the confluence of the Euphrates and Tigris lies the Shat al-Arab, a river that forms part of the Iran-Iraq border, perhaps echoing the biblical geography where Eden's rivers once converged. However, the Bible's mention of Pishon and Gihon complicates the picture. Some theologians have speculated that Pishon could refer to the Ganges in India or a long-gone river in the Arabian Peninsula, while Gihon might correspond to the Nile in Egypt or a river in the African region of Kush, modern-day Sudan. Despite these uncertainties, the inclusion of the Tigris and Euphrates in the biblical description anchors the Garden of Eden's location to Mesopotamia. Theories that place Eden in modern Iraq or Iran are based on these rivers' ancient importance and the fertile landscapes they nourished. The Persian Gulf region, with its rich agricultural history, aligns well with the concept of a lush paradise. Beyond Mesopotamia, some scholars and scientists have looked to Africa, where the story of humanity's origins takes a different turn. In South Africa's cradle of humankind, an archaeological site northwest of Johannesburg, researchers have discovered the remains of Australopithecus, an early human ancestor that lived over 3 million years ago. Further north in Ethiopia, the remains of the earliest Homo sapiens have been uncovered, pointing to Africa as the birthplace of modern humanity. Some theories suggest that Eden, symbolizing humanity's beginnings, could be linked to these early developments. The cradle of humankind, where ancient hominid fossils were unearthed, offers a stark contrast to the biblical Eden but provides a scientific explanation for humanity's roots. Ethiopia, too, often referred to as a Garden of Eden in poetic terms, serves as a potential starting point for human evolution. These African sites may not align with the biblical account of Eden's 4 rivers, but they offer a rational perspective on the symbolic meaning of Eden as the origin of human life. John Calvin, a prominent theologian of the Protestant Reformation, approached the issue of locating the Garden of Eden with caution and skepticism. In his analysis, he raised significant doubts about attempts to pinpoint Eden using known geography. Calvin recognized that the geography described in the Bible, particularly the mention of rivers such as the Pishon and Gihon, presented a unique challenge. These rivers, which are referenced alongside the more recognizable Tigris and Euphrates, elude modern identification, complicating any effort to locate Eden with certainty. One of Calvin's central arguments was that the earth had undergone dramatic transformations since the time of Eden, most notably as a result of the biblical flood. According to the Genesis account, the flood was a cataclysmic event that reshaped the planet's topography. Calvin suggested that this deluge fundamentally altered the landscape, making it impossible to use modern geography to trace Eden's exact location. This view aligns with his broader theological perspective that human attempts to understand divine mysteries are inherently limited. The difficulty of identifying the Pishon and Gihon rivers further reinforced Calvin's skepticism. While the Tigris and Euphrates are well-known rivers in the Middle East, the other 2 rivers mentioned in Genesis have no clear modern equivalents. Scholars and explorers have long speculated about their possible locations, but none have offered conclusive evidence. Calvin was not alone in asserting that the violent upheavals of the flood could have erased or significantly altered these rivers. Modern geological evidence supports Calvin's skepticism. Beneath the current location of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers lie hundreds of feet of sedimentary strata, much of which contains fossils. These fossil-bearing layers are thought to have been laid down during the flood, which indicates that the area we now associate with the Tigris and Euphrates would have been underwater or drastically different during the time of Eden. For Calvin, this made it illogical to assume that the present-day Tigris and Euphrates mark the same rivers as those in the Garden of Eden. This leads to an intriguing question: why are there rivers named Tigris and Euphrates today in the Middle East? Calvin would likely argue that the names were reused for geographical reasons as human memory and tradition associated those regions with ancient accounts. But as for the original rivers mentioned in Genesis, Calvin believed their true locations were lost to history, submerged in a world forever altered by the flood. The recent discovery Dr. John Smith and his team of archaeologists have recently made could be humanity's most groundbreaking discovery, the legendary Garden of Eden. For centuries, scholars, historians, and explorers have sought the elusive paradise described in the Bible, but their efforts have always ended in disappointment. Yet, against all odds, Dr. Smith has uncovered what many thought was forever lost. Dr. Smith, an expert in ancient texts and artifacts, has spent years exploring the Middle East in search of clues that could lead to Eden. His breakthrough came unexpectedly during an expedition in northern Iraq. After years of meticulous study and investigation, his team stumbled upon a cave system in a remote, hilly region. What they found inside defied all expectations, a vast network of underground tunnels and chambers that led to what appeared to be an oasis hidden deep within the earth. This hidden oasis was nothing short of astonishing. The deeper the team ventured into the cave, the more they uncovered an ecosystem that had been sealed off from the outside world for millennia. Within these tunnels, they discovered a thriving world of vibrant green plants, some of which had never been seen before. At the heart of the cave was a spectacular waterfall, nourishing the vegetation and sustaining the life within. Dr. Smith described the scene as breathtaking. "We have always believed that the Garden of Eden was a real place, but until now, we had no idea where to look. The plants inside this underground paradise were unlike anything documented before. Some had glowing leaves, while others emitted exotic, almost otherworldly scents. These strange plants have piqued the interest of botanists and ecologists alike, as they might hold the key to new advances in medicine and agriculture." Dr. Smith and his team are particularly excited about the potential medicinal properties these plants could offer, suggesting that they may lead to groundbreaking treatments for various diseases. Despite the extraordinary nature of the discovery, Dr. Smith and his colleagues have been careful not to make hasty conclusions. More research is required to understand the full scope of what they found, and some experts in the scientific community remain skeptical. However, Dr. Smith remains optimistic. The artifacts and inscriptions found within the cave offer thrilling clues about early human societies, potentially shedding light on ancient cultures and beliefs that have long been shrouded in mystery. The discovery of this underground Eden has ignited a flurry of excitement and debate. Some suggest that this oasis could indeed be the Garden of Eden described in Genesis, a celestial sanctuary bestowed upon Adam and Eve by the divine. Others caution that while the find is remarkable, it may not be the fabled paradise but rather a long-lost ancient ecosystem with significant historical importance. Either way, the discovery has captured the world's attention as people eagerly await further research and insights. One of the most striking features of this underground Eden is how isolated the ecosystem appears to be. The plants, cut off from the outside world, have evolved to thrive in the cave's low-light environment. Luminescent leaves allow them to capture what little light is available, while the presence of fresh water from the waterfall supports their growth. Ecologists are fascinated by how life has managed to endure in such a challenging and isolated habitat, offering a rare glimpse into how ecosystems can adapt and evolve under extreme conditions. Beyond its scientific implications, this discovery has profound cultural and religious significance. For those who believe in the literal existence of Eden, this could be the moment they have been waiting for, a tangible link to one of humanity's oldest and most enduring myths. For historians and archaeologists, the inscriptions and artifacts found in the cave could offer valuable insights into early human civilization, providing a deeper understanding of the beliefs and practices of ancient peoples. However, Dr. Smith is cautious about the road ahead. "This is only the beginning," he said. "There's so much more to explore and learn from this site. We must remain patient and methodical in our research." As the team continues their research, the world watches with bated breath, eager to learn more about this remarkable find and the secrets it holds. Could this be the fabled Eden, or is it another mystery waiting to be unraveled? Only time will tell. Corroborating the biblical account, Dr. Smith and his team's discovery has the potential to be one of the most significant archaeological breakthroughs in modern history. If this site can be identified as the Garden of Eden, it would provide a tangible connection between biblical narratives and the physical world. According to the Bible, Eden was a paradise where lush vegetation flourished, rivers shimmered under endless sunshine, and the first humans lived in perfect harmony with nature. Situated in the east, Eden was said to be blessed with a perpetual spring-like climate and abundant fruit-bearing trees, including the famous trees of life and knowledge. The geographical clues provided in Genesis suggest that Eden was located where four rivers flowed: the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates. The Tigris and Euphrates are well known today, originating in Turkey and flowing through modern-day Iraq before reaching the Persian Gulf. Their proximity to the cave system discovered by Dr. Smith's team raises the intriguing possibility that this region could have been the source of the 4 rivers described in Genesis. The remaining mystery lies in the Pishon and Gihon rivers, which are not as easily identifiable in today's geography. Some scholars speculate that these rivers may have dried up, been buried by natural disasters, or simply had their names changed over time. One theory suggests that the Pishon could have flowed through what is now Saudi Arabia, its path long obscured by the shifting desert sands. Another possibility is that these rivers were smaller tributaries that have since been lost to history. Geological changes, earthquakes, or floods could have altered the landscape, making it difficult to pinpoint their exact locations. Despite the missing rivers, the fact that 2 of the 4 biblical rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, remain present today lends credibility to the theory that this region could indeed have been the setting for Eden. Dr. Smith's team is cautious but optimistic. Their initial findings suggest a possible connection to the biblical account, but much more work is needed to confirm the identification of the site. Detailed studies, further excavations, and in-depth data analysis are all necessary before definitive conclusions can be drawn. However, the discovery has already generated significant excitement in the fields of biblical archaeology and ancient history, reigniting the age-old quest to find the Garden of Eden. If this site does indeed correspond to Eden, it could provide valuable insights into the ancient world and bridge the gap between myth and history. For now, the possibility remains appealing, and researchers continue to explore the potential of this remarkable find, hoping to unlock more clues to one of humanity's oldest mysteries. Theological and scientific implications. The debate surrounding the Garden of Eden often centers on whether it should be understood as a real physical place or a symbolic, mythological one. This discussion pulls in a range of perspectives, from creationists and biblical literalists who argue for a literal interpretation of Genesis, to scholars and theologians who see the story as a metaphor or myth history from surrounding cultures. Creationists and biblical literalists typically hold that the Garden of Eden was an actual location where the first humans, Adam and Eve, lived. For them, the Genesis account is not merely symbolic but represents a historical event in which humanity's disobedience led to its fall from grace. In this view, Eden is seen as a real place, geographically located somewhere in the Middle East, and the events described in Genesis are part of the factual history of humanity's origin. According to biblical literalists, the story of Noah's flood presents a compelling explanation for why the precise location of the Garden of Eden remains elusive. According to this view, the catastrophic events of the flood may have caused significant changes to the Earth's topography, making it difficult to pinpoint Eden's location today. The Institute for Creation Research explores this idea in its article, Where Was the Garden of Eden Located? They suggest that the geographical features mentioned in Genesis, like the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, could have been dramatically altered by the flood. The idea is that the flood was not just a localized event but a global upheaval that reshaped the Earth's surface. This might have shifted or erased the original courses of rivers, submerged landscapes, and created new geological formations, making the pre-flood world unrecognizable. If the Tigris and Euphrates exist in different locations today, the entire landscape surrounding Eden may have been transformed, further complicating efforts to locate it. However, another group of scholars takes a different approach, suggesting that the Genesis story may be more mythological. Myth, in its traditional sense, refers to stories that explain natural or social phenomena, often involving supernatural beings or events. From this perspective, the story of Eden could be understood as part of a broader tradition of ancient Near Eastern myths. These myths often feature divine gardens and themes of forbidden knowledge, which some argue are reflected in the Genesis narrative. One of the arguments supporting this idea is that many ancient cultures, particularly in Mesopotamia, had stories of gods who lived in sacred gardens. For example, Sumerian myths describe gods who created humans to tend their gardens. In these stories, humans were depicted as laborious, often working in these divine gardens without clothing, a motif that closely parallels the biblical portrayal of Adam and Eve in Eden. These stories also feature the idea of divine knowledge being kept from humans, a theme central to the Genesis account where Adam and Eve are forbidden from eating the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Supporters of the mythological view also point to how the Bible incorporates other regional mythological elements. In passages like Job 26 verses 5-14, references to mythical beings from Canaanite culture, such as Rahab and the twisting serpent, used to demonstrate Yahweh's superiority over other gods. Rather than competing with these mythological figures, Yahweh is portrayed as having defeated them, illustrating his supreme power. This borrowing of mythological imagery serves to underscore the unique power of Israel's God while simultaneously acknowledging the cultural narratives familiar to ancient readers. The design of the Garden of Eden also mirrors the imagery found in ancient temples. For instance, an ancient pagan temple found in northern Syria, likely dedicated to the god Ishtar, shares a similar layout to the Jerusalem temple, complete with cherubim guarding its entrance. Both temples also featured garden motifs, suggesting that sacred spaces filled with garden symbolism were a common feature of religious architecture in the region. This has led some to argue that the Garden of Eden may not have been a historical location but rather a symbolic representation of a sacred space. The concept of an untouched garden, as represented by the Garden of Eden, holds a powerful resonance with people across cultures. It symbolizes a longing for a simpler, more perfect world, one where humanity lived in harmony with nature, free from the complications of modern life. This image of Eden is often associated with lost innocence and the deep desire to return to a state of purity and balance, a world untainted by human interference. The story of Eden also extends beyond religious symbolism, influencing modern cultural and philosophical ideas. It frequently appears in discussions about human nature, morality, and our evolving relationship with the environment. Eden serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and nature and the potential consequences of disrupting that balance. The expulsion of Adam and Eve from the garden after they eat from the tree of knowledge speaks to the complex consequences of human curiosity and defiance. As the narrative of Eden unfolds, it raises important questions. What responsibilities do humans have toward the natural world? How do our actions affect the environment and our place within it? Recent claims of discovering Eden-related sites have failed to convince all skeptics. The primary issue is the ambiguity inherent in the biblical description of Eden. The Bible mentions key features such as the tree of life, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and 4 rivers, including the Tigris and Euphrates. However, the descriptions of the other 2 rivers, Keen and Gihon, remain unclear, leading to speculation but no definitive proof. Skeptics argue that without concrete archaeological evidence linking a location to these biblical features, claims about discovering Eden remain speculative. From a scientific standpoint, locating the Garden of Eden is fraught with difficulties. The biblical narrative provides only a limited description of the garden, mentioning rivers but not offering a precise geographical context. Adding to the challenges for scientists is the fact that archaeological evidence for the Garden of Eden is elusive, as the scriptures do not mention Adam creating anything within the garden. While some theories suggest that Eden might be located in Mesopotamia, Persia, Turkey, or Ethiopia, none of these theories have been substantiated by definitive evidence. For example, while Mesopotamia is a prominent candidate due to the presence of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the lack of information about the Pishon and Gihon rivers makes it challenging to pinpoint Eden precisely. Geographical changes over millennia further complicate the search for Eden. The Earth's landscape has undergone significant alterations due to tectonic shifts, erosion, and climatic changes. Rivers may have altered their courses or dried up, and ancient cities and features may have been buried or destroyed. These transformations make it difficult to match the ancient descriptions with modern geographical features. In addition to these challenges, reconciling ancient biblical texts with contemporary geography presents its own set of problems. The discrepancies between the descriptions in ancient texts and the actual geography of the proposed locations add to the uncertainty. The shifting nature of the landscape over thousands of years means that the ancient world described in the Bible may no longer resemble the modern landscape. Despite the numerous theories about Eden's location, from Mesopotamia to Turkey to Ethiopia, none have provided irrefutable evidence. Each theory faces significant hurdles, whether due to the lack of direct archaeological evidence or the difficulty of aligning ancient descriptions with modern geography. The quest for Eden remains a complex and contentious issue, marked by both scholarly debates and ongoing discoveries. For now, the Garden of Eden continues to occupy a place in the realm of speculation and myth, as the search for its exact location persists amidst the challenges and controversies surrounding it. The broader implications of the Garden of Eden, as described in the Old Testament, more than just a foundational story of humanity's origins. It has profoundly impacted religious thought and cultural imagination throughout history. This narrative detailing the lives of Adam and Eve in an idyllic paradise has become a symbol of perfect existence and the consequences of human disobedience. Its influence extends far beyond the religious sphere, shaping art, literature, music, and popular culture. In literature, Eden serves as a powerful metaphor for an ideal world. Writers have drawn on the image of the garden to explore themes of innocence, temptation, and fall from grace. John Milton's Paradise Lost, for example, reimagines the Eden narrative with rich poetic detail, delving into the cosmic struggle between good and evil and the human condition's fraught relationship with divine command. This work has had a lasting impact on how subsequent generations view the Eden story, embedding it deeply into Western literary and philosophical traditions. Music, too, has been influenced by the Garden of Eden. Composers have created works that evoke the tranquility and otherworldliness of Eden, often using lush, harmonious sounds to mimic the garden's peaceful nature. Musical compositions that draw from the Eden narrative frequently aim to transport listeners to a place of serene beauty, reflecting the garden's role as a symbol of ideal existence. Popular culture continues to keep the legend of Eden alive, albeit in often imaginative and varied forms. In movies, TV shows, and books, Eden is frequently portrayed as a mythical location or a lost world that heroes seek. These modern retellings and references often play with the idea of Eden as a paradise that holds secrets or untapped potential, reflecting contemporary desires for exploration and rediscovery. Such portrayals not only keep the legend vibrant but also underscore its enduring appeal as a symbol of a perfect world. The search for the Garden of Eden has become a metaphorical and literal quest, reflecting humanity's ongoing fascination with this ancient story. Various theories about Eden's location, from the fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to more speculative sites in Africa or the Americas, highlight the intersection of faith, geography, and historical inquiry. While definitive proof of Eden's physical existence remains elusive, the garden story continues to evoke a sense of wonder and mystery. The garden's narrative has prompted reflections on the nature of human existence, our relationship with the natural world, and the consequences of our actions. It has also spurred debates about the literal versus symbolic interpretation of religious texts and how mythological elements influence religious and cultural beliefs. In essence, the Garden of Eden serves as a potent symbol of humanity's quest for perfection and understanding. Its impact on art, literature, music, and popular culture underscores its role as a touchstone for exploring fundamental questions about life, morality, and the natural world. The garden's enduring allure and the ongoing search for its location remind us of the profound influence that myth and narrative can have on shaping human thought and cultural heritage. As scientists inch closer to potentially pinpointing the exact location of the Garden of Eden, the big question is, could this groundbreaking evidence actually lead to the discovery of Eden's true location, or will it remain an elusive symbol of humanity's quest for paradise? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.